Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Dark Side of the Stream. This is episode 214.
Yeah, 104.7 The Cave.
Hey.
104.7 The Cave. We forget we're doing this in the studio now.
I'm real foggy on what the hell we're doing and where we are.
Post-show, I'm very foggy, too.
This week was my pick. It's the documentary called Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. It is on HBO Max.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be awesome.
And if you were a child of the 80s,
dude,
as I am, and he is, this guy right here,
Superman,
was Superman.
There would be no other.
And so when I saw that they had done this documentary and I saw the previews for it, I was like, oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
I'm down. Well, it didn't spend a whole lot of time in this era. It spent most of the time in his post-horse accident, which we'll get into. I don't want to go right into it and spend this next 15 to 20 minutes discussing what that guy went through. But before that, it tells a story of Christopher Reeves, who basically was a Broadway actor.
Yeah, music. It was Juilliard,
yeah,
right?
Juilliard
acting
guy,
school, musical theater.
He was roommates with Robin Williams, and that relationship was really, really,
amazing,
really cool to see.
Yeah.
I think that another hard part of that documentary was Glenn Close saying that if Christopher was still around, she thinks that Robin would still be here too.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
That's very deep. And
what a good-looking guy too. First of all,
oh
right?
My goodness gracious, like the gene.
Perfect.
Well, and so
height, body, face. Gosh,
his father was a famous writer, poet, playwright, something like that.
Something like that.
And so that the focus that this man had, you could tell that he really, really wanted to be a successful and known actor, not necessarily an action hero or star, which
not at all.
Up until this point, you had You had Lou Ferrigno, who was the Hulk. Right, you had James Bond, who was kind of an action star.
Oh, yeah, James Bond.
But there really wasn't, Arnold didn't exist.
There wasn't superhero movies,
we hadn't gotten to Sly yet.
It was all cartoon-based.
Yeah, you had the 40s and 50s Superman.
The Batman TV show, maybe.
But nothing. But that was kind of campy.
Yeah.
This was the first time where they actually had a guy that was going to fly, who was going to be Superman. And the fact that these guys went with an unknown, and it was cool to see, was it not Jeff Bridges? Is it,
yeah, Jeff Bridges, right? No, not Jeff. I know, the Dumb and Dumber guy. The Dumb and Dumber guy. I know who you mean.
They always get this. It's not Jeff Bridges.
Dumb and Dumber guy.
Come on, look that up. Look it up.
Who's the Dumb and Dumber guy?
Who's the other guy, Dumb and Dumber?
In this? Dumb and Dumber, he was also in Full House.
But anyway, he was acting.
Jeff Daniels.
There we go.
Look at me. Tyler, you're fired. You didn't do nothing.
The human Google over here, Jay Stevens. So, yeah, they were working together and they were doing off-Broadway stuff. Yeah. And he goes, hey, I got to fly out to London tomorrow to do a
movie audition.
Like, what? And they're like, Superman. And
they laughed at him.
William Hurt was another dude. And he's like, don't do it. You're selling out, man.
Yeah,
you're selling out.
Going commercial, dude. Don't do it.
Jeff Daniels was like, nah, man, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, go. What are you talking? And this is the same guy who
first audition too for a movie, right?
Yeah,
and he got it. Landed it.
He got it. It was perfect. And then when he went out there, you see him here, and yeah, he's cut, he's big. He wasn't like that. He was a tall, skinny, little lanky dude who then spent the rest of that year.
They put him on the program.
Yeah, well, everyone was
probably got some of that Mexican juice, the sauce. They do that for movies. They do that for movies.
I don't know. This guy though, I don't think he did.
I mean, he wasn't jacked. He didn't like The Rock.
His body build comes with his body. Yeah. If he would have been more jacked, like think Hemsworth, like Thor,
those guys,
then I'd say
those guys are juicing. For sure. Yeah.
I don't think he was juicing. And honestly, if he did, it would have been within the realm
boost,
of like Arnold did it, like it was doctor. Because again, it's illegal. But if you are to juice and it's through a doctor, and there are ways to do it that are okay to your body. It's not great.
Yeah.
You're only supposed to do it for a small amount of time. But if you need that extra we're not going to get into steroid use on this. Don't do it. Just do it the right way. Hit the gym. Eat right.
Yeah, do it the way we do it.
We'll be back to talk more about Christopher Reeves and the Superman story, Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 214, Superman, the Christopher Reeves story. So, of course, you got to see a little bit about his personal life. He had 2 kids with his first woman, who he met while he was in London.
Interesting, yeah.
They never got married, decided that they never would, and then they raised a family together until one day he just said, nah, I'm out, and they kind of hit the scene.
He still had that wild side to him. He wasn't ready to settle down yet.
No, and again,
it happens, man. It happens.
when you become a parent, your priorities, at least in my case, completely changed. Like the yes to all the crazy stuff stops. You'd rather be, I mean, I was going into this last week and people were talking about going to happy hour. We were at work and they were like, yeah, about happy hour. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, that'd be fun. But then I'm like, nah, I just want to spend time with my kid and like play. And then I'm at home Friday night playing with my kid before bed and like that's the time. Awesome. That's my lane.
But, you know, he was married with kids or whatever and gets the Superman gig. Now you're a big, huge movie star.
And he also loved to live his life.
It's fun to experience that lifestyle for a for you know.
One of his next acting roles after this was a thing where he had to ride a horse every day, but he guessed he was hugely allergic, so he was doing self-injecting antihistamine every day so that he could not only do the horse riding but also learn how to ride a horse, and then he would continue doing that, which would be ultimately what caused him to get injured. And we'll get into that before, but that is some drive, sir. And like I said, I don't think it really goes like the steroid thing. A guy that was willing to inject himself with antihistamines to get over his allergic reaction doesn't seem like the guy that would be willing to cut corners to get big. I think he just did it. But my point is, even his kids would talk about how much they loved him and adored him, but the oldest one said, like, I was born, and the next day my dad went to go ski.
He was not.
He lived his life, you know, the way he wanted to. And then, obviously, the success of Superman, which would continue, which, by the way, again, I want to give props to Richard Donner, the director of the first Superman film. That guy is a monster.
It's raised the bar.
He directed so many great films and was a part of so many great movies in the 80s. Like, he's a big part of my life as far as films that I love. His name is usually attached to it somehow. But what was your favorite? Did you think the first one was the best or the second one?
First one always. I mean, with these kind of movies, usually the first one.
I personally,
usually
Superman
they go
2,
back to the well. They
Superman
go back to the well.
Good.
It gets watered out. Even he started saying
by
Superman 4. It's like
by 4,
he didn't even want to be doing it anymore.
But
like,
Superman 2 is not to be slept on. It is an incredible.
Yeah,
film.
I kind of remember there was a lot of hype with that one, and that was like, oh my gosh, there's another Superman movie.
Because it's like it's almost like a darker version. I still think it's one of the biggest letdowns of the world that they'll never do, Death of Superman. Because if you've ever read that read that comic, it's an incredible thing. If they could translate that to film, it would be something.
Well, Superman was probably the last superhero movie I've ever seen because I haven't watched any of this.
No Marvel,
stuff.
None of this stuff.
No, I'm not big. Sorry, Tyler.
What you need to do, what I was strongly suggesting, because I also I know Tyler's sitting there shaking his head. He's like, "Oh, I've seen every single one."
They probably watched them all last night.
I also have become extremely burnt out on the superhero thing and how we're just rehashing these superhero movies over and over and over again.
That's what I'm thinking.
I will say to you this though: you really, really, really need to watch the Watchmen series on Max. It is phenomenal.
I tried to. I couldn't do it. I will take that back. I did watch the Batman with Val Kilmer. So that was post this.
Like all the worst, like literally, Tyler's laughing.
That was the worst.
The worst of all.
Best one.
I love Val Kilmer.
That was the best one.
No, it was not. Christian Bale Batman's the best Batman.
No.
Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
He's more old school.
The one with Prince on the soundtrack? Dude, that was dope. That was dope.
The first and second, like with Michael Keaton, are great. But I think realistically...
Yeah, Michael Keaton is not
I think Christian Bale Batman is the best. And you got the best villains in those. Now, Batman 2, of course, you had the Penguin and you had the Joker in the first one. But...
What about this new one?
Heath
with
Ledger's...
the vampire kid.
You know what? It's not bad. I went into it and thinking like, we got the Twilight guy in there. What
he
are we
seems
doing?
Believable, like Val Kilmer, like
they
a dark soul.
They leaned heavily on the villains in that, and I think that is a thing where the best ones, when you lean on the villains, it actually makes it better. I.e., Superman 2. The reason Superman 2 is, I think, better than Superman 1 was because the villains in Superman 2 were a lot better than the Lex in the first one. I mean, it's Gene Hackman, like that's great, but Superman 2 villains were so much better. Anyway. We'll be back to talk about the sad part of this story, which is the majority of the documentary. Next, Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike, the intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave, episode 214, doing Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. So, of course, he was a big horse rider, and one day he's out doing a competition, which he was known to do.
Just biffed it.
The horse threw him, and instead of being able to, whatever happened, he wasn't able to break his fall and literally landed on his head. And so At the time, they thought he was a goner.
Yeah.
It essentially had separated his head from his body.
Oh gosh,
The surgery that they did to bring him back, which I think they said he coded 5 times, was the first of its kind. They basically had to reattach his head to his body. Ultimately, he would be paralyzed from the neck down. And there was some infighting between his family and his wife at the time, who he'd remarried and had another family with, and fell in love and the whole deal. She didn't want him; she wanted to try, and he basically decided that he was going to do it. Let's do it. And so then it would become an advocate for people that were in his condition, where what the question of quality of life and what that actually means, and to some people that literally have to be kept alive with the aid of machines, can they have a full and fulfilling life? And he spent the next several years of his life proving that it was possible.
Yeah, good work with foundations and stuff.
Yeah,
just it was real sad, man.
Oh my God, it was so gut wrenching.
Just such a life change, and what his kids and family had to
from a guy who literally played
Superman.
hockey,
a guy that was Superman.
Yeah,
to
completely cut him, and it was
real bummer, man.
Very, very,
life
very
is
solid.
Fragile, I think, is what it showed for sure.
Yeah, and then of course, you would follow his journey throughout that, and then the biggest gut punch was his youngest son literally losing his dad, losing his grandmother, and within 8-9 months of that, his mother gets diagnosed with lung cancer. Never smoked a day in her life.
Yeah, that was
stage
wacky,
4,
right?
and she was gone within 6 months. So in 18 months, that boy lost his dad, lost his mom, lost his grandmother. I know life is relative to each one of us, but brother, that's a
run, man, right there. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, it was a real downer for a while. That was the one drawback to this documentary. It was just. What a drag, man.
It just, again, I believe that you should live your life like today is the day, and you can, and you try, within parameters, obviously.
Got that, Tyler?
But, because you never know what tomorrow brings. And Christopher Reeves did that. It just sucks that what ended up happening to him was to take someone that was so full and so rich of life and to just completely say, okay, this is your life now.
Yeah.
But he did the most with what he had. And in the fact that he was able to continue on and to continue doing what he was able to do and make the most out of his life is
still acted
something
even,
that Superman was, and he's directed too, which was, incredible.
Good for him, man.
So his kids continue his legacy, which is good to see, and to be a fighter for those who are in his situation.
Isn't it like the curse of Superman? Isn't it?
There is that urban myth.
And the other guy's name was Christopher Reeve too, right? The other Superman guy.
And there's actually an Unsolved Mystery episodes about him, because they say that his official ruling was death by suicide or maybe misadventure or something. But there was a thought that he may have been involved with a woman who had ties to criminal family situations, and that guy got upset and killed him, or she did, or whatever.
Curse of Supermans. I don't know how these new Superman guys are doing, but
I personally, do you see the new Superman?
Nope, not at all.
The trailer looks dope. Tyler's got a thumbs up too. I think it looks awesome. I might be one of the first superhero movies I go back and see in the theaters, because I think Gunn's pretty good. So we'll see.
Change the topic of this show to the nerd speak.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here for. Anyway, we're going to come back and discuss our thoughts and a review of this documentary next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio one more time. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 214 on 104.7 The Cave. This week we did Superman.
I really wanted to wear some Superman underoos.
We talked about it.
I wanted to get some.
Couldn't get him here in time.
Couldn't get it here in time.
But that's why we printed this awesome picture of Superman, a.k.a. Christopher Reeves.
It should stay in the studio somewhere, I think.
You want to hang it?
It's inspiring with the flag behind him, and that was Superman.
That was when America was
badass.
This
was when America was badass. Maybe we're on the come up.
If you weren't alive during this part, you'll never know what it was like, man.
Kids, go back in time.
Sorry, Tyler.
Tyler, you don't know.
You don't know. You'll never know.
Tyler's over here watching
I would give this a solid 4.
I'm going to go 3 just because it was a downer for me, man.
Yeah, but you can't give a bad review because it was
that was my opinion on the documentary.
Can't always be jelly beans and rainbows, Jay Stevens.
I'll give it a 3.
Just because it was sad. Obviously, he doesn't like to face life's harsh realities.
Yeah, I don't like to face reality, guys.
So, what are we watching next week?
Do you want to? I got 2 choices. Do you want to go?
Obviously, it's not going to go. We're not going to do another downer. Okay. If you don't want to do another downer, let's make it happy.
Then let's go with the happy one. Then let's go with the documentary about Girls Gone Wild.
Is it a new one?
Yeah, brand new. Just came out. Yep.
The guy who made it?
It's a documentary about the guy who started Girls Gone Wild, and
I personally never actually have seen one of those. I've just watched those commercials probably 1,000. I mean, if you were alive in the late 90s,
that's exactly what
early
it talks
2000s,
about. They were printing DVDs and shipping them out.
The commercials were literally anything past 10 p.m. That was what the commercial stop box were. It was hot chicks 1-800 numbers, Girls Gone Wild, relationship 1-800 numbers, and lawyers. And the reason I knew that because I was a teenager in those. Anyway, we'll get into that.
Yeah, it'll be a fun choice.
Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah, a fun choice. The other one was a little serious. So this will be a fun choice.
Not Netflix.
I think it's Netflix,
Okay.
yeah.
Always,
Girls Gone Wild documentary.
That's your homework assignment. In the meantime, you can always watch us do this live on Facebook or YouTube at 9 a.m. every Thursday. We do it on our shows at 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. You can always download this as a podcast for free on
You can always call Tyler up and get sneak previews.
And if you want Tyler just to walk
come
you
over
through
and
the whole
film
process, he'd be more than happy to do that.
Our producer, Tyler, is... Poor guy. We're corrupting this guy. We're building a strong work ethic, but we are corrupting him.
He's putting up his boundaries, though.
You got really lucky with this job, Tyler. If you had a real job...
He's like going define.
You wouldn't make it.
He just wrote on a piece of paper, define luck.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm Mike the Intern. That's Jay Stevens reminding you
we watch
movies,
documentaries,
so you don't have to.
to.
It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.